They were robbing Louis Vuitton, Calvin Klein, some high ends. But we want to talk about that. We want to talk about what happened in New York yesterday, guys. The king was called a queen by Enes Kanter. What do you think about that? I mean, let's face it. LeBron James has owned the New York Knicks. At one time, they were begging for him to become a New York Knicks. He's averaging 28, 7, and 6 rebounds and assists. And it's almost comical when you get the foreign kids that come into the United States. They want to call out somebody, want to get in their face, want to fight. And you see how pro actually handles it. I don't think I've seen a pro handle that situation any better than what LeBron James did. He's kind of silky smooth like Michael Jordan when he knows the guys are trying to bait him into something that eventually will get him thrown out of the game. And why? It makes no sense. Why get thrown out of a game that you already command? He got the better end of them, winning by one, baited Porzingis out to the three, threw out. I mean, LeBron is shooting with a much better, much smoother touch than I've seen him shoot in the past years. That's been his one weak link, but he's showing more and more confidence from the three-point arc than I've seen in the past years. Maybe because of the Steph Curry effect. So many people are seeing how much emphasis is being put on the three-point shot. He's becoming a better three-point shooter. Talking about better players. Did you see the coming out party by the Philadelphia 76ers, Ben Simmons? Of course, he's one of LeBron James's agent business clients. But, man, this kid looks smooth. He looked dominating. Didn't look like the same kid that we saw playing at LSU that got knocked out and didn't even make the playoffs. This kid is going to be a force in the NBA. And, of course, we're going to talk a lot of football, guys. Going to talk a lot of football. Got to talk about, of course, Cam's wardrobe coming on to the powerofvoices.com. About halfway point through the show, I'm going to have old teammate of mine, Ron Brown, join us. I'm going to ask him, how many Paisley tuxedos he has. I mean, wait a minute. I stopped and I got to tell you, Cam has some style. But sometimes the style can get a little overboard and sometimes it can get a little wishy-washy. But the Paisley tux last night, I think, kind of took me overboard. I like the brims. The hats, I don't have any problem with the hats. But the pink Paisley with the black satin lapels, it wasn't quite the touch I was looking for Cam. But the one thing I can say about Cam, he's got style. And he's going to exude it, and he's going to exalt every piece of it. And he exudes with just confidence. And that's the same confidence, of course, you see him playing out on the field with. It's his play right now and his ability to lead this Carolina Panthers team that's making that Carolina Panthers team a completely different team that we saw last year. Coming off the Super Bowl, they just looked terrible last year, even with injuries to Luke Kuechly and some of the other players. Cam has continued to show the confidence. He was beat up last year, had a little surgery over the offseason, but it looks like he's finally playing at 100%. And in talking about the National Football League, I want to jump on something real quick. I'd love to get some of you guys to kind of give me your 2 cents on Colin Kaepernick back in the news. Of course, the commissioner is trying to get that meeting set up, which, from my all intent and purposes, is a wasteful meeting. Either you colluded or you didn't collude. There's no reason to really get at him now to talk about the situation, because if you really wanted to talk about the situation, you probably should have did that about 6 months ago when it was time to find him a position or talk about the issue. No one from the league office ever reached out to him before now. And right now he's got a lawsuit scheduled to go up against the National Football League. And it's a lawsuit that might have merit, might not have merit. I can't tell you because I don't know all the intricate parts. And there's a lot of working parts here, guys. It only takes one person to say, let's not hire him or stay away from him. I'm going to stay away from him. You should too. Whatever they might have said by phone, by text, by handshake, by hook or crook, That's all he's got to basically prove to make a collusion case. So it's going to be interesting to see what really transpired. But the one thing that I want to find out from many people is, should Colin have been named the Citizen of the Year? I'm hearing a lot of flack going backwards and forwards. Of course, Britt is, the fired ESPN host, Britt McHenry. She's slamming Colin. She's slamming GQ. Everybody's a slam to her in this case. And the only problem I'm having with people slamming Colin is, what are you slamming Colin for? Be precise at what you want to talk about. The same way they talked about the protest needs to be more directed. Give me a reason why. If you want to tell me it's the socks, I'm going to give you a heads up. Good reason. If you want to tell me it's the Fidel Castro shirt, give me a good reason. I think that's one as well. But do not show me the patheticness that it would be to say the fact that he took his platform to protest. That by no means is a good reason why you're down in Colin Kaepernick right now. If you want to talk about him as an athlete, that he was playing poorly, he was doing a poor job as a quarterback, okay, talk about him athletically. But when you start talking about what GQ was looking for in their Citizen of the Year, I don't know if that's something that we can doubt. He might qualify for that position. That position might be for somebody who is trying to help all. What people tend to get lost in is the fact that Colin actually stood by his word, and he put his money by his word, and put the money out there so that he promised to take care of this, donate to that. Everything that Colin Kaepernick has actually said he was going to do, he did. And I think if there's one thing that we can stop and step back and at least say about this, the gentleman here, is that he's a man of his word. And that's a good quality to have as being a Citizen of the Year. Hopefully we don't get any antics, dumb remarks like, Michael Vick made about the fact that she cut his afro. Dumb remarks. Those are the kind of things we want to stay away from. We want to stay really focused on what was the criteria that you were selecting your Citizen of the Year, and did he meet those criteria that you put in front of, there are a lot of guys who probably were listed, but in honesty, he might have been the most qualified for that Citizen of the Year. And so it's not one of those things to dog him or down him or point fingers at him because he did what he said he was going to do, which I'll be honest, I'd rather know the man who's honest than the man who's going to, go behind my back and smile at me today, and then behind my back, he's calling me, a SOB. So the one thing that's I can at least step forward in Colin's defense and say, at least the one thing I can say that is pretty admirable on his part is he's a man of his word. And what he says he's prepared to do or is going to do, he goes forth and does what he wants to do and says he's going to do. So give our hats off to Colin for that as well. It's one of those stories that I think we should at least kind of dive in, because if you've heard me on the show before, the one thing I do say that I want to see from Colin is I'm ready to hear his voice today. It's been a year plus since he last got in front of the mic and told everybody why he was protesting, what he was looking for in the protests. I think his protest has been successful. Not from a category of he stopped this or he was able to help in preventing that. He said he wanted to start a conversation about equality, about police brutality. And I think as a whole, with the NFL's help over the last 4 to 6 weeks, the discussion is starting to hit mainstream. People who normally stayed off the internet, stayed out of social media, stayed out of the public eye, are stepping forward. And here's the thing. They're stepping forward whether they are for it or against it, and that's basically the big kahuna, the big thumbs up that Colin got. His whole thing was he wanted to start the conversation. I think I read last week that Vince Scully said he was never going to watch football again. And, I love Vince Scully. He's a Hall of Fame broadcaster. He typified everything that made it sound so good when you went out or you listened to the Dodgers games on radio. But who the hell is Vince Scully to say what people should protest? What gives him the right to say football is bad now, so I'm going to protest it all? Now he's going to protest football. I'm like, the hell with him. Let him go do his thing. He's just another bitter old man who grew up in a times that maybe now Vince Scully is showing us the real Vince Scully. I don't know. I don't know Vince very well. I've met him on a couple different occasions. You shake hands, that doesn't mean you know a person. Like I said with Bob McNair, and Richard Sherman said about Bob McNair, Bob, you don't have to apologize because I know where you stand. And now I know how I can approach you. I know how you feel about me in general. So I don't know. Vince Scully has been an advocate, supporter of athletes around the world. He's always been a voice of reason. But to step out and say that you're going to boycott football the rest of your life, you don't ever want to see it, because of what? They took a knee? I can find 100 different things else that Vince Scully never had anything to do with. He doesn't seem to have a problem with baseball when all they did was stick needles and juice the game up. They ruined the game of baseball for a decade, maybe two. I didn't hear him say, I'm never going to broadcast another baseball game. Because they took a knee, which is not a negative towards the flag, to be honest. We take a knee in a lot of things we do. And Colin was only following the gesture that was given to him by a serviceman. The veterans told him, the Green Berets said, take a knee, Colin. That's what we do. And so now Vince Scully comes out and makes that comment, and he knows that his voice means something to the world. He's the voice of reason. As I said, when it came to Dodgers baseball, he was a voice of reason in the early 60s and 70s, calling national football games. But to step out against the National Football League and say, I'm never watching the game, that's Vince trying to show his what? I don't know, that he's a bigger swinging, and people are going to listen to his view and follow his gesture. I'm never going to support I was very, very disappointed to hear Vince Scully step out like that, because there are a lot of negativity, a lot of negatives that go with any sport. There are guys who've killed their wives, beat their wives, raped girls, do cocaine, sell drugs. I can go through 10 things that are worse than taking a knee for the national anthem. And then at the same time, I can even point to the third verse of the national anthem, and Vince Scully has no problem with that. Where I, of course, would have a problem with that. But it's just one gesture by one person giving the view of another person. Nothing you can really do about it. But I was very, very disappointed to hear Vince Scully give that gesture when he talked about the National Football League. Of course, you're listening to the Legends Community Show here on thepowerofvoices.com. I'm your host, Greg Bell. Like I said, coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll have one of my dear friends, old teammate of mine with the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not even going to get started talking about the Rams. I'll talk about that when we get Ron Brown on the phone and get a chance to joke with him about all the things that are Rams, what's going on new in his life right about now. Get his impression of how great this team is looking at the midway point now. Of course, the Rams being 7-2, coming off a 33-7, basically beat down of the Houston Texans. And I know there are a lot of people out there that are going to say, well, of course, this is like the Rams that won the Super Bowl. They had the lightest schedule coming in. So what? That's one of those things where you say, so what? They only doing what was given them the opportunity. They didn't make the schedule. They took the schedule, and they live with it. And, of course, it's just going to create even more excitement, because on December 10th, that game against the New England Patriots is shaping up to be like a prelude to the NFC Championship game. And so I'm just telling you right now, if you're in Los Angeles, you're listening to the powerofvoices.com, the Legends Show here, you got to be hyped as hype can be, because we know that the Rams are about bit closer to clinching a playoff spot, whether it be wild card or not. It might just be the NFC champions. And so it's going to be crazy. Like I said, I want to be able to get on, talk a little football with Ron. We'll have a lot of fun talking about the fact that this Rams team is getting closer and closer to what many people didn't expect them anywhere. No one expected them to be where they are today, but they're close. Right about now, too, college basketball is in full swing. And I got to tell you before I get to the bottom of the hour, how impressed are you with this kid, Marvin Bagley III? I think he's out of the game today, got poked in the eye or something like that. I watched earlier. He was getting his game going on. But, man, what a beast of a young man. This kid's already averaging 25-10 first two games. And if you watched him those first two games, this kid was playing heads above beyond anything that I have seen in a long time. This kid, I mean, he has that it factor. When you watch a kid and you forget the way he handles himself, the way he moves, but the way he intimidates. He's an intimidating force on that floor. Kind of like when you watch Shaq when he was at LSU. He was such an intimidating force on the floor. Half the time you couldn't get by his intimidation before you were shooting the ball. He was either blocking it or making you change your rhythm, your flow of a layup if you were trying to crash the boards. This kid, Marvin Bagley, is going to be something special. He's just nasty as a freshman. And if you're watching basketball, man, we got about 4 or 5 kids in the country right now that are just primo basketball players. The kid Bamba over at University of Texas, some of the other players, Michael Porter. We've got a list of freshmen right now that are star-studded. These guys are some of the best freshmen I think I've seen since the Fab Five. And the season just started. You got the kid Trace Young over at Oklahoma, probably the best freshman point guard of all. So just a lot going on from a standpoint of the freshman basketball players right now in the NC2A. But joining us right now on the Power of Voices, guys, I am proud to have him come on the phone. And that is a good friend of mine, former Ram All-Pro return specialist and wide receiver, Ron Brown. Ron, how you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, Ron. I wanted to get you on the phone because there's a lot that we got to talk about, especially just starting off right now with the Los Angeles Rams. How excited, how unpredictable, and just be honest, where did you see this team 9 weeks ago?
Well, yeah, to be honest, Greg, I thought the best they would do is 50-50 this year. I'm really pleasantly surprised the way they've been playing.
Well, we got a 33-7 win over Houston this past weekend. And a lot of people right now are probably saying that the magic number is probably 10 to make at least a wild card position. Where do you see this Rams team going from where they're at right now? Of course, they're 7-2 right now. And they've got some big games coming up. The one against New England is against the Eagles of Philadelphia is going to be great. But where do you see this team? Where do you think they're going to finish at this year?
Yeah, well, that could very well be that 10 number, man, or even better though, because they really should be 8-1 right now. That Seahawks game, they should have won that one, so they let that one get away from them. But they are a very impressive team, man. One thing I'm seeing that's different from last year, I really like the energy that this young coach brings to that team, man. These guys are actually having fun out there, GB. They're having a good time playing.
Yeah, and we talked about that earlier this year about the fact that this guy is so young. What when you see this young man and see the energy he's putting into this team, how impressed are you more? I guess more than anything, he as a leader, because when you're 28, 29 years old, he's the youngest coach in the National Football League right now. But where did he get this confidence of leadership is probably the biggest question.
Yeah, what he did, he came in and he didn't come in being the bully. He came in befriending the guys, letting the guys know, look, we're all in this together, which I think is very important. And we're gonna play, and we're gonna win some games. And, my understanding is he calls all the plays. They got some great plays. They brought some good weapons in to stretch the field, to give a running back a chance to get down the field. They don't stack it 8 in the box anymore, so they're stretching the field. giving the quarterback an opportunity to put the ball in play by some short stuff, building his confidence up, and now he's always had a strong arm, but now he's getting a touch on that to get to the deep ball with hitting Woods and a couple of other guys deep and stuff, and that's just going to open up everything for those guys, man. And the defense is playing outstanding too, though. These guys are flying around, making plays. They're impressive to watch, man. I mean, I'm telling you, GB, I'm pleasantly surprised, man. That turnaround.
Well, let me ask this question. You being a former wide receiver, of course they brought in Woods, former UCLA wide receiver, and then they also went and got his teammate from Buffalo, Sammy Watkins. How impressed have you been in the way that he's actually been able to get those guys into the game? And to be honest, Sammy Watkins, he doesn't even look like the first rounder that he was with the Buffalo Bills. Woods actually looks like the first rounder right now. But how impressive is it to see a team that last year couldn't hit the deep ball, and we're hitting the deep ball every game now?
Yeah, no, that very, very impressive, man. Like I was saying, and that's what it is. And the difference too, these guys are actually getting open. You know what I mean? And they're calling plays, and this guy is actually making plays and calling plays to get the ball in the hands of the guys that can make it happen for him. And
right. Go ahead.
That's why they're scoring so many points.
And that was going to probably be my next point. This team right now is leading the National Football League, averaging over 32 points a game. Going into the 10th game of the season, one of the factors that kind of probably the most amazing part to us is that we talked about it at the end of last year. We didn't see a running game that was somewhat suspect, or it wasn't present. And all of a sudden, not only has the arm of Jared Goff taken hold, but Todd Gurley's starting to run like the kid we saw as a rookie out of Georgia. How impressed are you with his, I guess you can say, comeback from his sophomore year?
Yeah, no, he's doing a good job, but he's having more of an opportunity to do a good job too, though. Because what they're doing with him too, though, besides heading the ball to him in the backfield, they give him some option plays where they'll fake it to him and then toss it to him on some outside screen plays and some swing routes to get him a chance to be one-on-one in space, which is good, giving him some open field to run to. And the reason why they're able to do that is because they got Woods and another kid on the outside, opening up the field. Woods is a 4.42 or better sprinter, man. That kid, he can fly. So, by them having to respect that deep ball, and they turn around and throw the ball to go right behind him, you go get 25, 30 yards. Whereas last year, I think his longest run was like 30 yards, and he only did one or two of them. This year he's had a chance to kind of show what he did, like you said, GB, a couple of years before.
Well, of course, you've not only played with the Los Angeles Rams, you also played with the Raiders. So I've got to talk to you. Of course, the Raiders broke ground yesterday in Las Vegas. How excited is that opportunity for the National Football League to actually bring football to Las Vegas?
Yeah, that's an interesting one right there, GB. I never thought that was going to happen. See, I'm glad I'm not a gambler, man. Goodness gracious, I would have lost. And I definitely would have doubled down and said the Raiders would never be in Vegas. So, see, I'm glad, man. At least I got a house now. I'd be homeless if I was a gambler, because I would never anticipate the Raiders going to Las Vegas, man. But even with them making this move and breaking ground and doing the things that they're doing right now to make that move to Vegas, man, it's going to be interesting them being out there, though.
Yes, a lot of distractions, a lot of things that so many people talk about. But I've told a few people that when you go to Las Vegas and you're there I tell people when I'm there more than 2 days, I don't even focus in on the gambling side of it. I kind of just enjoy the warm weather, the great food, and the entertainment that's around. And if you're not a gambler, I don't think you're going to start. But if you are a gambler, you're going to be kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm going there tomorrow, matter of fact, though. Yeah, no, I like going to Vegas, man, just kind of hanging out. I'm not a gambler either, but, it's just everybody there's from someplace else, though, and I think that's where the distraction comes in. Any excuse to go to Vegas, I take it. So, having the Raiders being out there for their home game, everybody used to load up from here just to go to Oakland for the weekend. So you're going to find a whole lot of people traveling down that 15 going to Vegas for those home games.
Well, you're an Inland Empire guy, and I'm going to bring up something, and I want your in 2 cents because we've talked about this issue probably for the past month. You're a father of an athlete. Of course, LeVar Ball lives over in the Chino Hills. You were over in that area, close to that area. I used to live over in that area as well. Of course, Lee Anthony Ball gets arrested in China, and we kind of, you did international track, so you know the rules and the regs that are over there when you go over there. How do you think UCLA are going to handle these three kids coming back into the United States? I got to ask you that because you're a son of an athlete. You were an athlete. How should they throw the book at them, or is this something as a learning experience that UCLA should take it? And then, of course, I'm going to ask you, what do you think about LeVar Ball?
Yeah, this is a tough one, man, because it got so much media attention, especially with the Ball kid, with his brother and stuff, and bringing that kind of negative publicity to the family, man. But kids will be kids, man. You know what I mean? And, you get over there, and for some reason you start to think that, just because they don't speak your language, that, that they're not as smart as you. But that was a terrible mistake for those two young men, man. I hate that it would happen, but they potentially could lose their scholarships behind this. So if that, if it ends up getting that far. But
here's the thing I said, and you can kind of give me your chime on this. I've been in colleges that I've seen kids get arrested for over drinking, driving drunk. And I understand that stealing is a crime. But regardless what you get arrested for, they're all what I would consider as petty incidents of adolescence and innocence in essence. This is no different than a DUI in essence. They got caught, same as you getting caught behind a car. I haven't read one time about a kid who gets stopped for DUI in college who gets a scholarship taken. So that's kind of why I'm a little softer maybe. And I see it as just immature adolescents being stupid. I mean, that's basically what it was.
No, I 100% agree with you, though. But the laws over there are a little bit different than here, though, because you're actually guilty until proven innocent. And then the value of the product, too, plays a big role in how much time you serve. So,
right. I think they got their house arrest and they're here in the United States. They actually got home probably about an hour ago. And the question now, of course, is what is UCLA going to do to them?
Okay, so are they back now without any charges? I mean, they don't have to go back and.
No, they don't have to go back. They were released, and I don't know if there was a fine, but they were under house arrest for the 7 days that they had to stay in, so I don't think they'll be going back. Trump actually had a word with the president there. If you how much of that I believe or don't believe, it doesn't make a difference. The fact that the kids are released, they're home now, and so they won't have to go back. The punishment now comes from what UCLA will do to the three.
Yeah, I don't think that they should lose their scholarship. I don't think that I'm with you as far as they just some kids being kids and made a stupid mistake, and that happens. And I think they've been punished enough. I think that sent a big message to all the other athletes that decided to go travel that way. You know what I mean? They saved a bunch of other ones that may have been thinking that they could, and some that did when they were there and didn't get caught will probably never do that drill again.
Make it an example, yeah. I mean, like I said, when you're 17, 18, you make dumb mistakes. Mistakes that, hopefully you learn from them and others learn from it, and they won't ever make those mistakes again.
Yeah, hopefully not, God willing. And sure, you'll do the same thing at 27, 28 too, though. So,
that's true.
Learn from
now, before I let you get out of here, of course, we talked probably just off the air. You and I talked about a week or two ago about the whole Colin Kaepernick issue. Of course, Colin Kaepernick has been invited by the league to, get involved in some of the conversation. Where do you think, or how do you think the players, because so much was being made 3 weeks ago about the protests, the taking of the knees. Now they don't show it on television. I don't even know if the players are standing out or not. I think for the most part they're still out there for the national anthem. The television just decided not to show that anymore. But where were you at through the whole Colin Kaepernick issue?
Yeah, I'm a fan of what was going on initially, though. I just think that they just kind of took it a little bit too far. You know, what I mean, I think that that the diversion of the flag of it being about the flag and not about what's happening in our communities. I'm part of one of the largest gang intervention programs in L.A. I've been profiled myself, shoot, at least 50, 60 times, so I understand what goes on with that. I think that if they change the laws, what I would have liked to have seen is I'd like to have seen Roger Goodell come out and say, "Listen, guys," and like we talked about the other day, GB, the NFL is the only league that don't refer to us as their partners. And because we're a collective bargaining agreement, as they make money, we make more money, or the current guys do. So
Right.
if they would have said, "Listen, guys, us as a whole, we're losing money to the tune of 25%, which was almost $500 million a month. Let's get back on track. Let's table this thing to the end of the season. And however much money you guys put up, we'll put up." Because my whole thing with this whole civil unjust thing that they're going through right now is that if they change the laws like they do to us all the time, then it will fix itself. If a police officer shoots an unarmed man, he can't hide behind his shield. He has to be prosecuted to the letter of the law. If a police officer shoots a man in the back, he can't hide behind his shield. He has to be prosecuted to the letter of the law. And if they say if he gets evaluated every 6 months, because it's a tough job them going out there. I understand they don't know what they're walking into when they walk up to a car. If a guy's on drugs or if a guy just finished killing somebody, and they know that, but they took the job. That's just like saying me playing football, I don't want to get hit. Well, then I can't play football. So there's a responsibility to them, and there is a measure of fear to anything that they do in that particular business. But that's why they got guns, and that's why they have tasers, and that's why they have rubber bullets, and that's why they take the class, and that's why they got the uniform, and that's why they got the badge. If not, take it off. So if they can't hide behind the shield, if they can't say I killed this man because of I was afraid, because they've done some studies, and if you're black, your fear heightens. So if that's the situation, then you shouldn't be dealing with black and working in black communities. You shouldn't have anything to do with engaging a black, or at least engaging one by yourself if that's your fear factor. Because most of these incidents have been where it was the police officer was by himself. And the one that sticks out to me the most is when the guy took off running and he said, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker," and then chased him down and killed him. Now, that's premeditated to me. And he said, "Oh, yeah, well, he had just said that out of anger."
You're right. That's, it's almost kind of like Bob McNair for the Houston Oilers said, we can't let the prisoners run the prison. He doesn't just say that off the slim of his tongue. It's not something that just
said before.
It just happens to roll off. It's rolled off his tongue a lot, and that's why I kind of like when Richard Sherman said, "Oh no, Bob McNair, you don't have to apologize because now we know how you stand. We know who you are, and I know how to approach you now." And so, I understand that does bother you when you hear somebody make a reporting where he says what he's going to do, and then he actually does what he says he's going to do, and there's no prosecution of him.
Right, exactly. Those kind of incidents, then they want to throw up black on black crime and all the depression and stuff. But I'm saying, listen, put some money in our urban communities. Let these kids get a chance to have a job. Don't just put drugs in our community and say, okay, you guys fight over these crumbs, and you guys, make your neighborhoods like they did back in the 80s when I was coming up.
Right.
Put some positive things for these kids to gravitate to. Make better school systems. Get our schools better. Education going on. We got in our projects and stuff. They don't even have internet at home, so they can't surf the net like the kids in other neighborhoods can do. Let's try to make the playing field a little more equal for our kids as far as education is concerned, and it will fix itself.
I tell you one thing. We had attorney Mike Lowry on the phone about 4 weeks ago, And he said to me, and I wish I would have actually said this on the air, but I get a chance to say it now because it was pretty interesting. He said to me, he said, Greg, if you look at the 30 NFL owners that are Caucasians, they have worked with more inner city or African American youth than anyone in America. If you think about that, I mean, most of them have never worked with 200 or 300 African American men. Might not even have friends. But when you think of an NFL owner, a Jerry Jones, a Bob McNair, because of their employees, they have gotten to be close or become close friends with numerous men of colors. And I'm not just talking about black, I'm talking about Latinos as well. They know more than anyone. And if they would have possibly stepped up and squashed a lot of these issues early on, it would have probably been an amazing feat.
Yeah, now that's a true statement, though. They do, though, but so do slave owners. Slave owners deal with
exactly
deals too. So, I mean, that just because somebody's by your side don't mean they own your side. You know what I mean? So I can't give them credit just because that they've worked with blacks. That means something. That's how they make their money. You know what I mean? So that don't mean we friends because I make you money. That just means I make you money. So of course you're gonna be grinning in my face if I'm Emmitt Smith or if I'm Michael Irvin scoring touchdowns for you, helping you get Super Bowl and helping you fatten your pockets, and advertisers is paying your team all this money to wear that cowboy shield. Yeah, absolutely, you're gonna be my friend, and that's the whole thing about coaching, and that was the whole philosophy with the Cowboys too, is that you want to be relevant, make plays. If not, I'm gonna cut you. So I can't go into friendship stuff because I don't know how much money any of those team owners have given to the inner cities. Who knows that number? Now, if you see, people will lend their time. Great people will lend their time. Good people will give them money. I don't know what they've ever done. Either one of them. None of them owners. I've never heard none of those owners actually in the hood saying, let me make your school better. Even with our new owner right now, Stan Kroenke. You know what I mean? Inglewood school system is on the verge of bankruptcy. You and I talked about that because we met with one of the superintendents. I don't remember Stan Kroenke saying, I'm going to come over here and cut a check to get this school. And he could do that, spending $30 billion over there in that 300 acres. He can get that school personally out of the receivership in the condition that school system is, and the 3 or 4 high schools that's in that school. I've never heard that mentioned. Oh, the last time I had a conversation with the guys from Wilson Meany, they were talking about, he's doing enough. What's enough? How could he do enough? What does that mean?
Yeah, because that city is gonna help make him billions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can't get behind that scenario. Just because you employ them don't mean that you friends with them. No, I don't understand that.
I hear you. I understand that wholeheartedly, and it also kind of rolls back to when we talked about the fact that we were partners. The fact that we don't hear that enough in the National Football League, and it's even worse when I think I saw something about the Dallas owner for the Mavericks, Mark McCuban. He was a little upset with Draymond Green because Draymond said he doesn't like the fact that they sometimes they live off of the term owner, like they own me. He says, and you don't own me. I'm not a piece of property. And so, Mark Cuban had to say something to the fact that that if you look at business, well, I almost want to say to Mark Cuban, you got to remember who wrote the book on business.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's what need to be said. Because they really do think they own you. That's the problem. You know what I mean? Like when they trade you and they cut you, like Dickerson is still in his feelings about that trade, man. All these many years later, though, every time he mentions it, he says it with an attitude. Because he was, one of our top running backs was the top running back in the league.
Yeah.
And then he has to hear when he's on his way to a party that he's been traded to the Indianapolis Colts. They didn't even give him the respect and the decency to say, hey, man, look, what do you think about this trade, man? The Colts or whatever, because we got to do better to our team. They just turn around and do it. So to me, like I said, just because somebody's standing by your side don't mean they on your side. And
Right.
I would
Yeah.
have, and I'm telling you, man, to this day he hurt by that, man. I didn't.
Now, one of the things I know you're involved here in Los Angeles also is talking about pain management and doing things to help guys who are involved in the world of pain. What are some of the things that Ron Brown is involved in today?
Well, we're doing a lot of stuff in this cannabis space, man. I've been watching that plant do some miracles. I mean, I personally don't get high though, but I've watched how that plant has helped with autistic kids. I've watched what it's helped with kids with seizures, and me losing both my parents to cancer. Watch what that plant has done for cancer patients, and because of how that plant operates with inflammation, this pain cream that we have right now called Unique Pain Cream has been doing wonders, man. Especially for me with like my back and stuff like that, man, this stuff is incredible. So, we have a CBD pain cream called Unique Pain Cream that is absolutely off the chart. And then we have some other pet products too that I'm Canine Cannabis is going to be exciting.
Right, and I know we're talking about doing some things for the inner cities with one of your compadres, Snoop Dogg. Hopefully, those things come to fruition. Football is always a great catalyst for bringing young inner city kids of all color. It's one of those things. It's always been it bends around the light. Regardless what color you are, when you get on the football field, you all have one thing in common, and that's to play a game that's been so great to others. And we're looking into possibilities of also doing something with flag football. What can you tell me about that?
GB, that's going to be a lot of fun, man, because statistics show that if a kid isn't playing football or watching football by the age of 10, now will he not only be a football player, he won't even be a fan. And I've gone to some of the schools, and that is absolutely true. I've asked kids about certain football players, the Peyton Manning's on. They like, I don't know who that is. You don't watch football on Sunday or Monday night? He goes, no, I do X Games. I'm a skateboarder, or, I just write code on my computer, stuff like that. So they're absolutely right, though. Their fan base will absolutely go away if they don't start engaging. So the stuff that we're talking about doing together, GB, with this flag football, it does a lot for the kids, too, as far as obesity and stuff is concerned, and diabetes is running rampant. Kids just don't get outside anymore and exercise. Their social skills are off the chain, how they use their phone to even talk to somebody sitting right next to them. So this football will bring all that together. That's why I say football is not just a game, it's a lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Touches all the emotions, your fear, your anger, your joy, all in that little 6 seconds, man, 10 seconds. So flag football is going to be fun. I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing it too, GB.
Yeah, I tell you, we will be, man. Hey, I want to thank you for stopping by the show today. Like always, it's always great to find out, get caught up to see what you're doing. What's the next Ram game you're going to?
Yeah, I'll be at the next one, man. I'll be at the Eagles. I think they only got like 3. I think they got the Eagles, the Saints, and the 49ers, man, New Year's. I think that's all the 3 home games.
New Year's Eve, yeah. I'm trying to finish up, and I'll let you know something later, probably tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm going to hear from the Rams tomorrow because we're trying to put a project together to bring kids from the San Bernardino Inland Empire out to that 49er game at the end of the year. So much has been talked about. Let me ask you this question before I let you go. Are there too many things to do in Southern California? Is that why we're only averaging in the 58,000 numbers at the Coliseum, or is it just that that there's just there are too many things? I mean, that's the one thing I keep hearing. There's so many things, so many distractions in Los Angeles. We're never going to get 65, 70,000 people back out there at the stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though, man, because of that, too. Then that's sharing space with the Chargers, too, though. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, though, man, because we have too much. And then with the Dodgers doing what they did this year and all the excitement with that was going on, people just rather either go to the Dodger game or sit home and watch them play. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to get, people out there, though, and those ticket prices don't help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that always seems to be an issue, and I don't even know. I can't even fathom right now today to wonder what a 50-yard line seat is going to be in the new stadium, because I've already heard, I'm hearing some inklings, and I've heard corporations tell me that some of the things that they're hearing from the Rams is they want a 5 or 10-year commitment on a box. So, it's not a year-to-year thing anymore like it used to be. They're looking for true fan endorsements. I mean, that's a sponsorship. If you want me to sign on and be in that box for the next 5 years. That's not a box seat anymore. That's a sponsorship.
Yeah, they're treating them like condominiums, man. They almost could write those joints off. Yeah, that's gonna be. I'm afraid of those seats too. Shit.
I mean, man, I would love to be in one of those boxes, but I don't want to sign a dotted line for 5 years. I mean, keep me year to year.
Well, what we're trying to do right now, man, and I talked to your boy Demoff about that too. I told him, I said, man, listen, we want to talk to you about actually leasing space in the stadium. We want to have a Rams lounge where, you know, the former guys can come in and lounge and bring corporate guys to come in and sit down with us and talk. You know, I mean, we want to be able to watch the game with some of our sponsors that we bring to the table. So, you know, he said that's open for negotiations, but it's yet to, we'll see. We'll see.
It's all, you know, everything is a we'll see. I think I'm getting from a lot of the guys. And the good thing is, though, I tell everybody, you know, I had my day in the sun. If it don't happen, it don't happen. I'm just happy to have football back in Southern California.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, Ron. Well, thanks for joining us here on the Legends Community Show. As always, so happy that you can stop in and chat with us. And like I tell everybody, you know, when I talk to my guys, man, you'll learn a lot about them. They're more than just athletes. They're some very, very smart people. Nice having you, man.
Yeah, great thing. Thanks, Evie. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Well, guys, you've been listening to the Legends Community Show. That was a good friend of mine, Ron Brown, stopped in, giving you a little info about what's going on here in Southern California, the excitement that the Rams have created. Just a lot of the things that's going on here in Southern California. And like I told you, he's some smart guys, man. Ron he always has his hand in a lot of things. You're listening to the Legends Community Show. And, you know, one of the things that he kind of brought up, and I want to just touch on it because I know it's almost too bad I don't have some video clips of it. I should have told my guy Lee to pull the audio. But, of course, Corey Riley, Jalen Hill, and LiAngelo Ball. I'm going to make sure getting how all these pronunciations, LeVar, Lonzo, LaMelo, the ball is back in town. And, of course, so much is going to be made about these three young men that are, you know, did wrong. Let's face it. They walked into some high-end clothing stores, stole sunglasses. And, you know, that's about all I've really heard is they stole some sunglasses. I don't know what else they might have done. I'd love to see the criminal report. But now we're coming to the big phase of it. What should they be doing from a standpoint of reprimanding these three young men? It's pretty obvious they got them on video. Pretty obvious they've served their home arrest in China. What should UCLA do now? That's the number one question that everybody's going to have. And I would probably beg to differ with probably most people. Like I said, I went to a school where a drunk student is stopped, possibly arrested all the time. Here we have a same incident. It's a adolescent's stupid mistake. And I'm going to call it what it is, a dumb, stupid mistake. No more of a mistake than driving in a car drunk. No more mistake in assaulting a woman. It probably a lot less than that. I don't think I can think of anything worse than that happens on a college campus. But in the long run of it, if you get stopped for a DUI, if you get arrested and ticketed for a DUI, you don't get thrown out of school. If you get caught cheating in school, there are some institutions that is an immediate expulsion. But I know a lot of universities that if that happens to you, they will put you out for a year. So let's be careful of how we harshly judge these three young men because, honestly, they made dumb adolescents mistakes. And that's really how you have to judge those mistakes that they were made. They made them. They've served the penalty that China wanted them. Trust me, they scared the living crap out of all three of them. And on top of that, they've embarrassed the university as well as their fan base. These three young men are good star basketball players that probably will go on to live productive lives. Let's not judge them too hardly. All right, guys. Well, you've been listening to the Legends Community Show here on The Power of Voices. I'm your host, Greg Bell. Guys, I am signing out, saying goodbye. Until I talk to you next week, Have a great week. Take care.